Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the urenuf.life podcast. I am so excited to have Emma Fetherman Juliano here with me. It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm so glad that you all are tuning in. We're trying to have an intergenerational conversation about wisdom, marriage, contentment, and anything else we choose to talk about in the next hour or so. Thank you very much for being on the show. You were on my last episode of my last previous project. That was in 2022, like May or April, somewhere in there. Since then, a lot has changed. So would you just maybe catch us up? What have you been thinking about and what's been happening in your life?
In 2022, in that summer, I had just started dating. I'm now married to that man, Joshua Juliano, who married me in September of 2024. You were there.
I was there.
You were there. You remember.
It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
It was lovely.
So that was September of 2024. I moved back to Denver. I was living in Albuquerque in 2022, getting my undergraduate degree, which I did receive in August of 2024. I also have been working full-time at a patent prosecution law firm in downtown Denver for the past 2 years. And in fall of 2026, this upcoming year, I will be enrolling somewhere. I'm not sure. I have a couple choices, and I'm also waiting on a few to get back to me in a law school somewhere. So a lot has changed.
Marriage, law school, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a lot? Does it feel like too much? Does it feel like just dream come true? How does it feel to even recap that and realize this is where you are now?
I don't think it feels like too much, but it feels like a lot. 4 years is a long time to me as a 24-year-old person, but when I'm 60, 4 years probably won't seem like a long time.
Yeah, probably true. What do you think has shifted, like in the way you see the world since being 20 and now being 24? What are you just aware of has shifted in your life in the past 4 years?
Well, I feel like for anyone who's older than 26 maybe watching this, the gap between 20 and 24 is not going to seem large, but I feel like what I've learned is that there is so much less certainty in the world in general, in spirituality as well, than I thought there was at 20. I feel like because I was raised in a church and raised in just one denomination, things were explained to me in a very black and white way when it comes to conviction, even though different churches, even within the same state or within the same family of churches, can vary pretty wildly on certain things. People tend to talk about things in a very matter-of-fact way. Yep. And in a very this is right, this is wrong way. And this is where the lines are. And lines are helpful, but I feel like as a 24-year-old, as an adult, as someone who has more control over my schedule and my finances and my plans, more control over that than I have ever had and maybe ever will have, the lines are much blurrier than I thought they were, and I do feel that they move and shift and they look different to different people. Okay.
So a lot has shifted, and you're saying you've become aware of just how like narrow the view was, and now the world has opened up.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Can you walk that out a little more? What do you feel empowered to choose now that maybe you didn't earlier? Or what is opening up? I don't know if it's more about empowerment or more about openness, but take it where you will.
I don't know if it is about empowerment or openness either. I just think that the societal and religious structures that young people grow up in as teenagers and we're such a campus ministry focused movement, that's where a lot of my beliefs came from. And once you're out of campus ministry, there is a significant drop-off in guidance and oversight spiritually.
Okay.
And
I would agree, as someone that's 30 years ahead of you had the same experience. Yeah.
And in some ways, I think that's good. And I feel like I've been able to try new things. And I have found myself saying and doing things that maybe would have appalled a younger version of me. But that's just kind of the way that life is. And I appreciate the independence that comes with growing out of those stages. And I think that the structure and guidance is crucial in those stages.
Okay.
However, I don't think there should be more guidance as a single person, but I do think there should be maybe a launch pad for campus students. And this might just be my experience. It's not the same everywhere. This is coupled with me moving states after undergrad. So, the support system changed. There are less people to hold me accountable to things and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, when typically I hear people talk about campus ministry moving into now I'm graduated or I've stopped going to college, it's almost cast in a negative sense. The level of number of events per week, let's say, in our church, and I don't know if you use the word oversight, but the level of people being in your business, right?
Right.
Well, that's part of being that age, no matter whether you're part of a church or not.
Yeah.
Depending on how social you are. What do you think was, speaking of wisdom and contentment, when you look back on your campus years, what was the wisdom of the guidance, and where maybe did some of that guidance trend in the direction of not so advisable, maybe foolish? When you look back in your experience, you're not speaking for every campus ministry everywhere, but where do you feel like things really did align with wisdom?
In my campus ministry experience, the choices that were made by people around me, are you saying that I think were wise?
Well, you could take it in terms of choices you witnessed, or the feel or the impact of that culture.
Okay.
How did, on the good side, let's say, how did campus ministry actually provide wisdom and equip you to have a good and true and beautiful life? Let's start there.
Well, that's a great question. I think that I was entrusted with little in campus ministry, but I was still entrusted with things. I was very active in the campus ministry. It was basically a full-time job. I did put it on my resume. I encourage any campus student to put their involvement with a Christian organization that is registered with the school on their resume, because it is basically a part-time job. You're putting in 20 or more hours a week if you're going to everything.
So even involvement, not necessarily
even
working.
Involvement, right.
Oh, okay.
And I was in leadership for the campus ministry, which I think was good and helpful.
Kind of another layer of...
Yes, but, not everyone is in leadership in campus ministry. And that's not to say that I was more invested or more wise or more worthy, because I don't think any of that's true. I was willing, and there was a need. I did not volunteer for that.
Fair enough. So you showed up when it was appropriate and good and right to do so.
Yeah, things just kind of fell into place for that. I just happened to be there. It wasn't even a here am I, send me moment. It was, Emma might be good.
Cool. I'm thinking about, you said it's a good idea to put it on your resume. So can you go walk that out a little more? Why do you think it's a resume-worthy thing to be involved in something beyond the time spent? What else is, if I'm a happy vigorous campus student and I
Right.
go to a job interview, what can
Yeah.
I talk about that helps me connect with a future employer? I'm
I'm-
really curious about this.
So glad you asked. When you're in a campus ministry, you are routinely putting yourself out there and debating with people you don't know very well,
Oh, that's true.
who have differing opinions from you, generally, and you have to go about those situations in a very respectful and polite and measured way because of your goal as a campus student. And when you are a campus student involved in your ministry, you're meeting weekly with people who have the same, some tangible, some intangible goals as you. So it teaches you cooperation, it teaches you collaboration, it is a social group, it teaches you
true.
event planning a lot of the time,
I've been thinking about that a lot.
leading discussions, taking initiative in certain situations. Campus ministries look different, but the expectation in my campus ministry when I was there is that you will be open, you will be giving, you will be present, and you will be kind at every event. If you were a disciple, that's minimum. That's not you going above and beyond. That's what you have to do. That's what you sign up for.
Okay. And that was clear when you entered. It was made clear, like
Yes.
it was explicit. It wasn't just the culture of things. It was more like, hey, welcome. This is how we do what we do.
Actually, I don't know if it was explicit from leadership, but I do feel that it was explicit from the culture that was
Great.
already built.
When you say open, you use two words that maybe the audience may not know. What do you mean by open and giving?
Yeah.
Those two buzzwords. What does that mean? Let's say I'm not part of the same church culture.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, thanks for calling that out because I can slip into, and I actually hate this, so thank you so much for saying that. There's this Christian corporate speak that we fall into that I try so hard not
That's
to,
okay.
and I've spent my whole life in it, so it's hard to pull it back and talk
Yeah.
like a normal person.
Yeah, don't filter yourself. I'm just going to pause from time to time and go, let's talk more about that because
Sure.
we say these words, we encapsulate a whole cultural experience in a
Yeah.
word like be giving or be open. What is that
Right.
for you? And this isn't for everybody
Okay.
in the campus ministry, but are
Right.
those healthy things or like how do you
Okay.
curious?
Open to me means being honest with people around you about what you're going through. I feel
okay.
like the last thing that I would want to hear if I were going through a hard time and we're trying to find some solace or comfort in religion, if it's something I'd never tried, which is usually the kind of person who came around to our campus ministry. We didn't have a lot of like group conversions. I think that's probably not the right term. In campus ministry, the people who were joining the group and the people who were getting baptized were generally not involved in another church group on campus when we met them.
Fair enough. The world, some people might call them unchurched.
Sure.
Okay, so they were coming in with a pretty blank slate then.
Right. And I feel like the last thing that I would want to hear from a bunch of Christians is how perfect and amazing their life is.
Got
because
it. Okay.
it sells people this idea that if you become a Christian, your life will be good and perfect and easy. And it's not true. It actually, the yoke is easy and the burden is light, but some things get significantly harder when you become a Christian.
There's a hot take. Yeah, the yoke is easy and the burden is light, but it's some things get really hard when you become a Christian. And I
Yeah.
bet being open consistently is one of them. Like did you find that to be true or no?
I'll never forget when my campus minister said this to me. I think that being open is being honest.
Okay.
And my campus minister once said, Emma, you're not being vulnerable with me. And I said, what do you mean I'm not being vulnerable with you? I'm telling you about every single time that I mess up and screw up and do something shameful and wrong.
Okay.
And she said, you're just telling me that. You're not telling me how you feel about that. You're not.
Oh, I love this.
And I was like, telling you how I feel? Like, what are you talking about?
Did you make that face?
Probably. I was like, I'm telling you exactly what happened
Yeah.
as it happened. And I'm not leaving out any of
what else do you need to
any
know?
of the dirty, juicy details either. I'm telling you everything. And it's still something that I struggle with.
Aha.
But I also think that coming right out of the gates with someone who you don't really know and telling them not only how your life is going, but like the shame and anger and depression that comes with those things, maybe wait a little before bringing them into that world.
Okay. Wow, I did not expect this to go there, but here's what I'm hearing is that openness is if it's genuine and authentic, it has a golden thread of vulnerability. And then you just finished by saying vulnerability is not just like a hose turned on too hard where we just spray everybody with our vulnerability. It's over time, it's kind of the chicken and the egg. Which comes first, the trust or the vulnerability? I don't know, but you need to feed into both to build healthy relationships. And the expectation in campus ministry was, in effect, healthy because it helped newcomers realize, oh, I can be honest, I can be down to earth, I don't have to put on a religious show.
Right.
Okay. I'm really glad I asked.
Well, I'm glad you asked too.
Okay, so openness and giving.
Right.
What is giving about? Giving. What does that mean?
I think some people, and I will define this in a second, I think some people are naturally giving, or they tend toward giving, or they err toward giving, which can come with its own problems. But I think that the way that I define giving is centering the other person in the interaction.
Ah, that's awesome. Yeah. I would love for everybody I love to have that skill.
Well, some of the people who center others in every interaction that they have end up building a lot of resentment and bitterness, and then it just comes out at that other person.
Okay.
So it's a double-edged sword a little bit.
Well, can you go down both roads? Like, how can being giving or centering that other person, how can that be a good thing? And then how can centering others be what you just said, kind of annoying or not so good? So can you do one and then the other maybe?
Sure, of course. Well, centering others is something that Christ calls us to do. And it makes people feel good. It makes people feel seen. Okay. And it makes people feel like you're on their side, which of course you are, or you should be. And it invites depth into your relationship, which is great. If you want to have a deep relationship, one of the first things you have to do is get to know the other person. And if you want to get to know someone else, you have to stop talking about you.
Okay. And when you say centering others, you're not talking about flattery. Like, what are some ways that a person could, let's say they're watching this podcast today and they realize, yeah, I want to try that thing that Emma was talking about. I want to try to center others a little more. What do you know, campus-aged people, or even people your current age, what's the struggle there in putting other people first, and how does it work to put someone else at the center or in the interaction, or to be giving?
I think this is a timely discussion because it comes, honestly, I feel like on the decline of the myself first and the protecting my peace jargon that has been sweeping through Western culture recently. I do feel like that is stopping, which is good. But there's still some, I don't want to say truth, there's some validity, maybe is the right word, to protecting peace and to making sure you recognize your own needs and that kind of thing. But to me, if I were watching this podcast and thinking, how can I center others? Start small. Think of what people have said to you in the past. Follow up with that. Send more hello texts than you receive. There's an action item.
There's an action item.
People in my generation. I personally love an action item.
Never met an action item you didn't like.
Well,
I'm kidding.
reaching out does so much, and thinking of others and letting them know when you are thinking of them is so powerful. People should almost never, I hate to say never because I'm not a huge fan of absolute statements, but so people should almost never keep a positive thought about another person to themselves. Share that with them or with someone else around you.
Ooh, that's a nugget. I think you just dropped some wisdom.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you should. Why? What's the use of keeping a positive thought to yourself? So
There's none.
Be giving might be consideration,
Right.
remembering the last conversation, picking up where you left off, sending the text, like spending the 8 seconds to type something out and just say, hey, I'm thinking of you. That is a beautiful thing.
There's this brother in Albuquerque who's named Brian Cullen, and he does a fantastic job
that's
at
so
that.
cool.
He
I gotta get that guy on the podcast.
You should. He's so great. He does this wonderfully. He periodically sends out these very thoughtful, considerate messages to others, and they're random, and every time you get one, it's like, it's, I don't know, it's
What
like,
is the impact
it's
when
like,
you get
it's
a
like
message
finding $5 on the ground. You're like, oh, well, this is so great, and there's a little pep in your step for the rest of the day. And these are long texts,
Okay.
you know, and he doesn't discriminate with people. He'll send them to anyone, but he'll just say how he was praying for you and how he so admires when you did this, and he really wants to be more like you because you did that. And it's a really, it's just such a positive experience. I assume for him, it's definitely positive to be on the receiving end. He absolutely inspired me to do the same. I actually haven't talked to Brian in a while, so I should probably hit him up after this.
I'm glad we're talking about Brian.
If you ever watch this, Brian, I'm so inspired by you.
Way to go. We have a slot for you on the podcast, Brian. So you just said about 3 things around being giving on the good side. 1, positivity. He's specific when he's sending you that text.
He's so specific.
And that's really, it's not like, hey, thinking of you, love you, you're great.
Yeah. Which is still better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. Then there's this word that's coming up for me, consideration. Just to be considerate is, in fact, to be giving.
Yes.
And it's the pre-action. First I consider, and then I go and do something giving. So that's what you're making me think about. And it makes me think, Emma, what kind of a person consistently writes specific, kind, edifying texts? What kind of person does that? That's the kind of person I want more of in the world, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I want to talk about this, and why I'm so excited about what you're saying is, how can we multiply that in the world? Like, I wonder, what are Brian's habits every day? Does he think through his friendships? Does he have a list of people he wants to be sure to work through this week? Or does it just spontaneously erupt from in him? But that kind of joy and effervescence and edification is just so interesting to me. So you got me thinking.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
You'll have to ask Brian.
Brian, where are you, man? We need you here. Okay, so being giving, kind of a cultural expectation in a campus ministry to be giving in the way you just described, beautiful. Nobody would have a problem with that. How can it go wrong? This be giving ethos, how can it maybe go sideways, or how did it maybe not always feel great for you?
I don't know that it didn't ever feel great for me. And that's just because I think I almost never erred on the side of being too giving. I think my problem was mostly not being giving enough.
Okay.
But there were a couple situations that I witnessed where the person who was centering others was becoming the foundation for others over God and over pretty much
okay.
anything or anyone else. But that's so hard as well because it was all done in love and in good faith. And people are going through so many things. And once you know that someone is going through something, and once they entrust that to you and you guys become enmeshed emotionally, there's so little you can do to pull back from that. And
enmeshment is no joke.
It really isn't.
And you're not using that word lightly. You're meaning what you're saying. Like,
yes.
There became an entanglement because of someone being so giving.
Yes, and it's campus ministers and campus ministry, they're so worried about physical enmeshment and physical entanglement. And they're like, you guys, don't do it. Please, don't whatever you do, don't become enmeshed physically with another person.
Sure.
And then in that same room, there are people and there are groups that are like melding into one another in a way that was so baffling to see and that almost always ended poorly. And it wasn't a chronic issue.
Sure, it's just something you witnessed.
Yes.
Okay.
It's something I witnessed.
And so characteristics of that kind of enmeshment that isn't physical, but it is relational or emotional, what are maybe a couple of telltale signs? How do I know that I'm enmeshed, or what have you seen as relatively common when people get connected to each other in a not healthy way?
It's so hard to say because as an adult, I'm seeing friends like once every 2 weeks or like once a month, you know? And in campus ministry, you're seeing your friends every single day, multiple times a day.
That is true.
But these are non-exhaustive, but I think a couple warning signs are if someone is consistently having a hard time in life, and it's just multiple things, you know?
Yeah.
And they're reaching out to one person for basically all support, and it's that person getting called first, you know, each time. There's no attempt for emotional regulation on their end. There are texts that I saw other people receive that were extremely intimate in an emotional way.
Got it.
And I thought to myself, why would you send that to another person?
Really? Okay.
This is something that you say to a therapist or some other kind of mental health professional.
Got it.
And these were coming at like very odd times, you know?
Okay.
At all hours of the day, no matter what the other person was doing, even if they knew that other person was busy or doing things with other people, and they were sending things that the other person couldn't not respond to, you know? These
because
are
they're
like,
so dramatic and urgent.
Right. These are deep, emotional, urgent texts that if I received that text, I would have called 911, which is why I didn't receive those texts.
Okay.
And it's not that I am taking it more seriously than the other person. I have less experience than some when it comes to dealing with emotionally volatile individuals.
Fair enough.
But I'm so afraid of being the last, like the A to Z of someone's support and of someone's life. And
That's fair.
I don't know if that has made me a more distant person, or maybe it's made me harder to connect with. Certainly the person who I'm thinking of who was getting these emotional messages, I admire her so deeply, and she has a true gift for connection. A true God-given gift that I think is like 1 in a million. And I don't envy her. I don't envy her for having that gift. I'm so inspired by it. But gosh, if I could just connect with people like that, to the point where people who are starved for connection will latch on to it, I don't know what I would do. I'd be a recluse, I guess. I don't know if this is making sense.
It is making sense.
Okay, well, that's good.
And before we go to the break, or the halftime, if you will, here's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
When you described giving in a healthy way, it was positive, it was specific, it was essentially love. And love coming through in the form of Brian's text, let's say. Was it Brian?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
Brian. Shout out to Brian.
When it goes wrong, giving becomes an invitation to codependence. When it goes wrong, giving becomes need. So I contribute to you by listening, fielding your texts at all hours, and letting you just run over my boundaries. Just send me anything, anytime, and I just can't help myself. I've got to respond. That's when giving becomes this perversion of healthy relationship. Its boundaries just completely evaporate, and now, like you said, the one person that seems giving, and they're admirable in some ways, actually become an idol to the person that is just hyper relying on them. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, and I feel like I am potentially not being fair to this person, because in her situation, what else could happen? I don't know that there was anything else that could have been done in that situation from her. I think she handled it in the best possible way, and she handled it better than almost anyone that I can think of. But it hurt me to see her be put in those situations at all.
I'm with you. And as we bring this conversation to a close, and we'll go into the last conversation, I think from my 50-year-old lens, the story you're telling sounds like a person who had an amazing heart, got called upon, and at 20-something, whatever, years old, just didn't yet have the skill to recognize what was happening and have the toolkit or the strategies to respond in a way that maybe it's not like, I'm hanging up, I'm calling 911, but it's more like, hey, have you thought about this? Or like the series of questions to ask, or some sort of guidance where I'm so glad you called me, and I can't be your all in all, and I have the language or the tools or the strategies to help direct, let's say, the needy person in a healthier direction to get their genuine needs met. There is something there of knowing that you're out of your depth, or that seeing it kind of a mile away, like, oh, that person is going to ask more than is appropriate, so I need to be pretty clear now, like this far and no further, or you can only text me between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. or whatever. So that's what I'm sitting with. I'm not trying to set aside your story. I'm just saying, in the spirit of a podcast that's about wisdom, intergenerationalism, sharing ideas and experiences, that's what's coming to mind for me. And the last thing I would say is that this person that you're describing, to some extent, reminds me of myself, and you remind me of my wife, in that my wife is very good at, I don't know what you would say. You described yourself in a certain way that I've forgotten, but I just think people with healthy boundaries are a good thing, but the world is filled to the brim with people pleasers. So if people with healthy boundaries are people that just don't engage or give or be giving the way you're just, the way maybe is always expected, or especially in a adrenalized, young, vigorous campus ministry, not everybody's an extrovert, and not everybody is, I don't know, they just don't have that. We all have different impacts on people, and I think there's a place for you and your energy and the way you come across and the healthiness of it. And there is a place for people that are gifted with the ability to make people feel welcome to be who they are and download their stuff.
Yeah.
That is part of the beauty of God pulling us together in a community. And I just wonder how in campus, in single, in young married, older married, married with kids, empty nesters, all the way through, how in a family that lives under the same roof or in a church of 200 or 300 or 400 people or a mega church, how do we help everybody both appreciate others and receive appreciation, like true validation? I just wonder about that. So you've got my brain going, and I like that. That's why I like this podcast. So thanks for plugging in and joining. I'm going to hit the pause button for a minute, and we'll be right back.